In the icy lands of Scandinavia, nestled between high mountains and vast forests, the village of Hraftheim had entered a peaceful and calm period after years of war, a sharp contrast to the warrior Vikings of the past and their way of life. The village seemed to be part of nature itself, surrounded by massive rocks, deep rivers, and green meadows. Days passed and the harsh cold of winter gave way to the mild sun of summer. Many saw this period of peace, which followed the heavy battles, as a kind of natural end. The leader of the village, Bjorn the Golden-Haired, was a great warrior and strategist of the past. He was well known among the Vikings for his courage and intelligence in battles, earning him legendary status. However, as time passed, Bjorn grew weary of war and chose peace. His desire to cultivate the land, protect his family, and develop his village gave him a new purpose. He had chosen this new path not to win victories, but to engage in farming, get closer to nature, and accept a simpler lifestyle. Bjorn's greatest wish was to ensure that peace remained in the place he lived. Nevertheless, the villagers often saw themselves as Viking warriors, and they still debated Bjorn's desire for peace. They were not ready to forget the honor that battles once brought them. Although Bjorn understood the strength and pride in the hearts of these warriors, he felt that the era of war had come to an end. To him, everything had to be cut short and come to an end someday. Bjorn's son, Ivar, had never accepted his father's decision. From a young age, he had decided to become a warrior, win battles, and live up to his father's honor. Ivar was still deeply passionate about the peace in the village and the beginning of his own path. His eyes were always focused on battles, great victories, and legends. Ivar not only wanted to follow his father's footsteps, but also longed to become a bold leader in his own right. He saw his father's victories in battles as great inspiration, but he didn't understand that the era of war had already come to an end. One day, Ivar approached his father and presented a new proposal. "Father, we must fight again. Our village must once again show its strength and write our name in history. Warriors like us can never remain in peace. Our village must return to a time of war and move toward legends." Ivar's proposal made Bjorn think deeply. Bjorn had fought in wars for a long time and had experienced many hard moments. He had learned everything about war, but was now tired of this life. He understood Ivar's passion, but he wanted to explain how different his path had become. Bjorn thought that the war was over, and the greatest honor was to live a simple life and in peace. "Ivar, we are tired of fighting. The war is over, and we must cultivate our land and continue to protect our families. Returning to battle is not real victory. True victory is protecting life and living in peace." He replied to his son. Ivar did not accept his father's words. He saw his thoughts as outdated and weak. Ivar not only wanted to be a warrior and defend the village, but he also wanted to live up to his father's legendary warrior identity. He decided to find his own path and decided to leave the village. That day, Ivar set off as a future warrior against his father and the villagers. The era of war was about to begin again in his life, and the village's history would soon change.
Ignoring his father's words, Ivar left the village. Unconsciously, he had decided to find his own path. He was young, excited, and filled with the spirit of a warrior. He was far from the idea of returning to village life, cultivating the land, and living in peace. His thoughts were only about the honor and great victories that war would bring. As he neared the edge of the village, his decision was already made. In this world, only warriors survive. As Ivar continued on his way, he soon crossed the borders and entered the vast forests. The forests were the most dangerous yet beautiful part of the Scandinavian lands. This ruthless side of nature also demonstrated the harshness of life and, at the same time, its grandeur. As he ventured through the land where many warriors had left their marks in past years, Ivar sought to increase his strength. He felt like a being with no purpose on his own. But he always held his head high, always ready to overcome every obstacle that came his way. After a few days, Ivar encountered a group of harsh and wild warriors. These warriors fought courageously and in an extraordinary way, but their lifestyle and customs were very different from the warriors Ivar had previously imagined. They were a group of defeated Vikings who had fled, warriors lost in battles. They had already distanced themselves from civilization, living only by their wild instincts. Ivar began observing these warriors in order to join them. Over several days, he got closer to their leader, a legendary warrior named Hallvard. Hallvard was very experienced in battles and had dedicated his life solely to war. His philosophy of war promoted the idea that only the strongest and most fearless survive. To be a warrior, you must not only be strong but also understand the true purpose of battle, Hallvard said to Ivar one day. Choosing between life and death is sometimes the moment when the true warrior is tested. Hallvard's words caught Ivar's attention. As Ivar tried to understand the lifestyle and philosophy of these warriors, his inner unease and doubts grew even more. In reality, he was not only facing war, but also his inner battle. For several weeks, Ivar spent time with Hallvard's warriors, participating in many battles. In these battles, he tested both his strength and his inner doubts. One day, Hallvard gave him one final test. Ivar, the hardest battle is the one a man fights against himself. Today, I will test you. The reason we begin fighting is not to protect the identity of the people living in these lands, but to crush them. As Ivar carried out this task, he felt deeply the weight of Hallvard's battle philosophy. He realized that the purpose of war was not only to win, but also understand the depth and meaning of life. Every battle was not just a physical struggle, but also an inner trial. After some time, Hallvard asked Ivar the most difficult question of his life. Ivar, what do you need? Power, victory, or simply to find the true meaning of life? This question shook Ivar's heart. Although he had won in battles and wars, he felt a sense of emptiness inside. He had never found true victory by winning in battle. This question, which would change Ivar's life, forced him to face not just war, but other aspects of life as well. One day, Hallvard decided to take him across to the other side of the Scandinavian rivers. There, he believed Ivar would find his true purpose.
As Ivar set out with Hallvard towards the other side of the Scandinavian rivers, he felt that he was embarking on a journey that would completely change his life. The victories he had gained in battles could no longer fill the emptiness in his heart. He wanted to find himself as a warrior, but these battles had already begun to change something within him. The question Hallvard had asked him made him reflect, and he now felt more like a person searching for the meaning of life rather than just a warrior. Along the way, Hallvard imparted various life lessons to him. After a few days, they came across a hunting village on the riverbank. This village was somewhat distant from the warrior culture, inhabited by simple people who worked the land. As Ivar approached the village, he encountered a way of life that was simple and humble. The people here dedicated their lives to the land, nature, and each other. Hallvard invited Ivar to embrace this way of life, to understand the value of simplicity by merging with nature. You see, Ivar, Hallvard began, the greatest lesson in simple living is understanding that power is not just at your hand, it might also lie within you. When a warrior understands this, only then do they truly possess power. We must merge with nature and make peace with life. To show you your true strength, you must live a simple life. At first, Ivar was skeptical of Hallvard's words, but tried to keep an open mind to continue his inner battle. Staying in the village for a few days made him reflect. Ivar began to sense the deeper and more meaningful sides of life. He now understood what battles and victories had given him, and what they had deprived him of. One evening, while sitting with Hallvard in a forested area near the village, Ivar asked, "Why did you come with me on this journey? I am a warrior. The purpose of my life is to win in these battles. Why are you walking this path with me?" Hallvard, slowly turning his head, replied with great wisdom. Every warrior must understand the weight and pressure that comes with struggle. But war is not just about the battles. The real fight is against the doubts, fears, and desires within oneself. I am walking with you so that you can find your strength and learn the true meaning of being a warrior. Ivar thought deeply about these words. Halvar's words shed light on his inner struggle. He had started to understand that life was not only about battles, but also about surviving, finding the meaning of life and understanding the importance of nature, people, and self-awareness. The next day, Halvar decided to take Ivar further into the wilderness, towards the hunting cave. Here they would face a new, more serious trial. Halvard invited Ivar to face the darkness of the cave, to leave behind his fears and doubts and only listen to his spirit. This cave symbolized not only a physical test, but also an inner battle. As they entered the cave, Ivar's spirit was shaken. In the dark, cold, and narrow spaces, only Halvard's voice guided him. He began confronting his fears. This was not just a physical fight. This was the real struggle of life. Ivar was now trying to win not only in battles, but in life itself. When they emerged from the cave, Ivar felt stronger and clearer. He now understood the meaning of war better and was getting closer to finding the right balance between war and peace. Ivar, emerging from the cave with Halvard, stood on the threshold of a difficult period. He had embarked on a journey not just to win battles, but to find the deeper meanings of life. The cave had taught him the importance of overcoming his fears and internal reflections. For in battle, winning against others is not as important as finding victory within oneself. A few days later, Halvard took Ivar to a hill. From there, Ivar could see the beautiful landscape of the river. Facing the rivers, mountains, and surrounding areas, Ivar was still trying to find his path. He had never faced such huge questions and challenges in his life. But now, he felt a different meaning to winning in battles and warfare. Halvard, at that moment, explained to him that battle was not just one way. Ivar, we once fought with all our might to win in battles, but the real struggle is life itself. The beauty of peace and the true meaning of victory lie in inner order and balance. Questions swirled in Ivar's mind. He no longer wanted to live just for war. He understood how much effort it took to choose this era and this life, and that every person must choose their own path to find their struggle. However, he had not yet fully understood the simple aspects of life. This was a new phase of his life. One day, Halvard offered him a very harsh test. Ivar, now I will show you what it truly means to be a warrior. Today we will go against the flow of this river. Ivar nodded in agreement. They thought they would fight against the swiftly flowing waters of the river. With every step facing the strength of the river, Ivar thought about how to fight against the simple nature of life. This experience taught him that not only physical strength, but also making peace with nature and life was crucial. Halvard, holding Ivar in front of the river, gave him one final trial. Battles are not just physical strength. They are also about holding your head high against the storms of life. To survive a life, we must fight. But the most important thing is to remain as a person in the face of life's harshness. If we can cross this river, this trial will teach us. Ivar thought deeply about these words. Fighting against the river's strength seemed like overcoming the difficult moments of life. This battle taught him a simple lesson. The greatest fight in life is the internal battle of a person. Ivar now understood that fighting wasn't only against external enemies, but recognizing oneself and bringing out one's inner strength was more important. After crossing the river, Halvard congratulated Ivar, saying, "You are now a true warrior, Ivar. Fighting is not just about winning. It is also about making peace with oneself and understanding one's life." A few days later, Halvard and Ivar came across a hunting village along the river. This was a simple, humble settlement inhabited by locals living in Scandinavia's lands. Here, people lived simple lives, cultivated the land, fished, and engaged in agriculture. When Ivar entered this village, it was his first experience being so close to nature and living a simple life. While staying in the village, Ivar began to understand how difficult and yet beautiful life was. One of the elders in the village imparted one of life's most beautiful lessons to him. I understand that you are young and need to learn the secrets of life. But remember, Ivar, everything has its time. Life is not only filled with battles, but also with simple moments. Everything is within a cycle, and you must pass the real battle with the wisdom within. Hearing these words, Ivar felt a shift within himself. He began to focus less on battles, victories, and glory, and more on life itself. This village helped him find both inner peace and the beauty of simple living. On his life's journey, Ivar now understood that there was something more important than battles, understanding life itself and learning from every moment of it. During the days Ivar spent in the village, he began to understand the value of simple living more deeply. He now realized that living solely for battles and victories was meaningless. Life needed to be appreciated and understood in every moment. He understood that everything was tied to cycles, and each phase of these cycles brought its own beauty and wisdom. A turning point had come in Ivar's life, and he had already completed his inner struggle. One day, one of the elders of the village approached him and made a significant offer. The elder still felt the warrior spirit within Ivar, but this time, the warrior had found his inner strength and spirit. "Ivar," said the elder, "you have found the meaning of life and understood your strength. But a true leader is not someone who only inspires himself. A true leader is one who inspires others and teaches them. Your journey does not end here. Life is not just about finding ourselves, but about showing others the way." As Ivar heard these words, a light began to shine within him. He now realized that he would not only be content with finding his own path, but also show others how to move forward on that path. This was a new beginning for him. The words of Hallvard and the elder completely changed Ivar's mindset. Being a warrior was not just about winning, but also about showing others the way and teaching them the depth of life. As Ivar prepared to leave the village with Hallvard, he felt that he now had to move forward not as a warrior, but as a leader. He had learned the simple sides of life, but now he wanted to share what he had learned, to show others the importance of peace and inner strength. Ivar had made peace with himself and found the meaning of life. He now understood that great victories could be won without fighting wars. A few months later, Ivar returned to his village. But this return was not like the return of a warrior coming back to fight. Ivar now had a different purpose. He wanted to convey to the villagers the importance of peace and mutual respect. Looking at his father's past and the days of war, he had now found the honor of life. But this time, honor was not in battles, but in supporting one another and finding the sincerity of life. Ivar stood before his father and the villagers and spoke a simple word. "We once lived to fight, but now we must fight not only for ourselves, but to understand each other. Every warrior must find his own strength and learn how to inspire others." When Bjorn heard his son Ivar's words, he stared at him in awe and slowly nodded. The peace in his eyes was different from the days of war in the past. Ivar was no longer just a warrior, but also a leader who sought to understand the tranquility and wisdom of life. This was the end of one era, but the beginning of a new one. As the villagers listened to Ivar's words, a change was felt in each of them. Each began to appreciate the simpler and more beautiful aspects of their lives. This was not only the beginning of Ivar's journey, but of a new beginning for the whole village. Ivar had stopped seeking the honor of battles and wars, but he had decided to find the honor of life and teach others this honor. He had found his path, and now he wanted to show others how to move forward on that path. That day, Ivar and Bjorn stood together, joining hands for a new beginning filled with hope and struggle for the future. Ivar had completed the greatest battle of his life, not as a warrior, but as a leader.